Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Jim Beckwith reporting here at End Times Prophecy News. From Gateway Pundit, breaking exclusive. We caught the Mueller team in a massive lie. Roger Stone was right. Yesterday, we reported breaking news that the firm that started the entire Russia collusion lie, CrowdStrike, is now backpedaling. Today, we show how CrowdStrike's actions now leave the Mueller gang exposed with no place to hide. Don't get tired of winning now. As we reported yesterday, the firm CrowdStrike is backpedaling on their actions related to the fraudulent claim that Russians hacked the DNC and shipped these hacked emails to WikiLeaks. Summary from yesterday. For more than 3 years of the mainstream media promoted the biggest fraud in U.S. history, that Russians hacked the DNC emails and gave the emails they hacked to WikiLeaks, who then leaked the emails before the 2016 election. Now, suddenly, the firm at the center of this fraud, CrowdStrike, is taking a step back from the previous positions related to the entire sham. I wonder if John Durham, the federal prosecutor that's been appointed to prosecute all this and to investigate this, has anything to do with their decision. This past Tuesday, the website Personal Liberty received an email from John Eddy, Executive Vice President from the PR firm Golden Solutions. The email follows: "My firm works with CrowdStrike and we read your article titled 'Trump Seeks to Boost Sanders and Foment Discord Among Democrats.' We need to request important updates to the article." The article states that the FBI was denied access to the emails, and the conclusion that they were stolen and released by Russian intelligence operatives was made by the DNC-hired cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, which has ties to Ukrainian oligarchs and the Council on Foreign Relations, the New World Order beast system right there, huh? This is incorrect. CrowdStrike's founders have no connections to Ukraine. The company also provided all forensic evidence and an analysis to the FBI that they requested, and the conclusions have been fully supported by the U.S. intelligence community. Additionally, CrowdStrike was hired by the DNC to respond to the suspected breach of its servers and did not do any investigations around the release of the information. Could you please update the article for accuracy to clarify that CrowdStrike does not have ties to Ukraine and that the company was hired by the DNC to investigate the hack of the servers? Note the phrase, the CrowdStrike's PR firm, stating that CrowdStrike, quote, did not do any investigations around the release of the information, end quote. The Gateway Pundit contacted CrowdStrike's PR firm, Golden Solutions, and they confirmed their email to Personal Liberty. So after 3.5 years of the fraudulent Russia collusion scam being repeated so often that half of America believes that Russia hacked the DNC and gave their emails to WikiLeaks and colluded with Donald Trump, now CrowdStrike says it has nothing to do with concluding that Russians gave the emails to WikiLeaks? It sounds like an exoneration for WikiLeaks founder. What does this all mean? Julian Assange, that is. This leads us back to the fraudulent Mueller sham and the Roger Stone case. The Mueller gang indicted 37 individuals and 3 companies during its 2-year reign of terror, an attempted coup of the Trump administration, and then they indicted Roger Stone. Of the 38 individuals indicted by the Mueller gang, 30 were Russians who will never be brought to justice for a couple of reasons, but it adds to the numbers, huh? It adds to the 8 that were wrongfully indicted and charged, huh? One reason is they supposedly live in Russia and their chances of coming to the U.S. for trial are basically nil. They'd be stupid, huh? They certainly would never volunteer to do this and risk being thrown in prison. The second reason is that we don't really even know if they are real people, do we? But of the 38 individuals, the Mueller gang made the mistake to indict 12 Russian intelligence officers. Oops. Fox News reports in July of 2018, the Justice Department on July 13 announced that 12 Russian intelligence officers were indicted for allegedly hacking the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and Hillary Clinton's campaign during the 2016 election. All 12 are members of the GRU, the Russian intelligence agency. The indictments, which stem from the special counsel Robert Mueller's probe into Russia's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, were announced by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. But some things didn't add up about this indictment. Appelbaum's argument. We report the following yesterday, but it's important to bring this up again, as you will see later. Cyber expert Yakov Appelbaum says that CrowdStrike's claims about Russians hacking the DNC are completely false. If CrowdStrike gave the FBI any data, it was drive images. We don't even know which ones. This did not include memory dumps, network pocket captures, firewall activity, etc. This additional data is crucial and should have been examined in real time by the FBI. If indeed any drive images were given to the FBI, these would have been contaminated because they continued to use these drives for weeks after the alleged hack. CrowdStrike was completely wrong, most literally intentionally, or most likely intentionally, about the Russian hack of the Ukrainian artillery allegation. And we know for a fact that they use the same forensic techniques to reach that conclusion as they did on the DNC hack. Appelbaum posted a report in January of 2019 with information basically proving that the DNC was not hacked by the Russians. Appelbaum's first argument is this. According to WAPO, using CrowdStrike, DOJ, and their other usual hush-hush government sources in the know, the attack was perpetuated by a Russian unit led by Lieutenant Captain Nikolai Kozacek, who allegedly crafted a malware called X-Agent and used it to get into the network and install keystroke loggers on several PCs. This allowed them to see what the employees were typing and take screenshots of the employees' computers. This is pretty detailed information, but if this was the case, then how did the DOJ learn all of these details and use them in the indictments without the FBI ever forensically evaluating the DNC HRC computers? And since when does the DOJ, an organization that only speaks the language of indictments, use hearsay and third parties like the British national Matt Tate, a former GCHQ collector and a connoisseur of all things related to the Russian collusion, CrowdStrike, or any other evidence lacking chain of custody certification as a primary source for prosecution? They do when they're utterly corrupt, don't they? A second point by Appelbaum is that 3 of the Russian GRU officers on the DOJ wanted by the FBI list were allegedly working concurrently on multiple non-related projects like interfering with the 2016 United States elections, both HRC and DNC, while at the same time they were also allegedly hacking anti-doping agencies. What? Above are the pictures of the individuals that the FBI says were working on both the DNC, HRC email hacking and the Olympic doping projects. Now, the same guys were working on both projects, which is all but impossible. Do we really know if they're even real people or even real Russians? Appelbaum argues, quote, the fact that the 3 had multiple concurrent high-impact and high-visibility project assignments is odd because this is not how typical offensive cyber intelligence teams operate. These units tend to be compartmentalized. They are assigned to a specific mission, and the task force stays together for the entire duration of the project. Next, Appelbaum questions that Mueller gang's assertion that the hacker named Guccifer 2.0 was the Russian. Quote, any evidence that Guccifer 2.0 is a Russian should be evaluated while keeping these points in mind. He used a Russian VPN service to cloak his IP address, but did not use Tor. Using a proxy to conduct cyber operations is a SOP, standard operating procedure, in all intelligence and LEA law enforcement agency. Russia would have masked their VPN service. He used the AOL email service that captured and forwarded his IP address and the same AOL email to contact various media outlets on the same day of the attack. This is so overt and amateurish that it's unlikely to be a mistake and seems like a deliberate attempt to leave traceable breadcrumbs. He named his office user account Felix, translated into English, Felix Dzerzhinsky, after the founder of the Soviet secret police. devices and accounts used in offensive cyberspace operations use random names to prevent trackability and identification. Why would anyone in the GRUs use this pseudonym? Besides, the obvious reason is beyond comprehension. He copied the original Trump opposition research document and pasted it into a new .dotm template with an editing time of about 2 minutes. This resulted in a change of the, quote, last modified by, end quote, field from Warren Flood to, and the creation of the additional Russian metadata in the document. Why waste the time and effort doing this? About 4 hours after creating the Russian version of the document, he exported it to a PDF using I think it's pronounced LibreOffice 4.2. In the process, he removed about 20 of the original pages. This was most likely done to show additional Russian fingerprints in the form of broken hyperlink error messages in Russian images 4 and 5. Why bother with it reformatting and converting the source documents? Why not just get the raw data out of the original format ASAP? Applebaum next discusses Guccifer 2.0. Great work by Applebaum here. In June of 2016, Lorenzo Franceschi Beccarai from Vice Motherboard interviewed a person who identified himself as Guccifer 2.0. During their online chat session, the individual claimed that he was a Romanian. See transcript of the interview below. His poor Romanian language skills were later used to unmask his Russian identity. I'm not a scientific linguist, nor do I even know where to find one of if my life depended on it, but I'm certain that you can't reliably determine nationality based on someone impersonating another language or from the use of fake metadata in files. This elaborate theory also has the obvious flaw of assuming that the Russian intelligence services are dumb enough to show up to an interview posing as Romanians without actually being able to read and write fluent Romanian. After providing a couple more examples of why the Russian story doesn't stick, Applebaum closes with this, quote, "The bottom line is that we want to go beyond the speculative trivia, the pseudoscience, and the bombastic and unverified claims. We have to ask the real tough questions. Mainly, is Guccifer 2.0 even the real attacker? And how did he circumvent all the logs during several weeks of repeated visits while downloading close to 2 gigabytes of data? Plain and simple. Mueller's case against the 12 Russian intelligence officers is a fraud." Now we go to Roger Stone. This brings up Roger Stone, the last American indicted by the Mueller gang. On January 23, 2019, Stone was indicted for a number of frivolous crimes where he was accused of lying to Congress. Looking at the indictment, Stone had a good case that he did not lie. The entire case reeks of prosecutorial abuse, as the honey badger is going for his lawyer. As the world knows, the FBI arrested Stone on these bogus charges at 5 a.m. one morning by an FBI team that included a helicopter and boats in the water outside his Florida residence and more than 20 agents outside his premises, as if he was dangerous. CNN was tipped off and sent out camera crews to film the entire event. The Stone arrest was one of the most abusive episodes in the U.S. law enforcement history. Yet no FBI agents blew the whistle and said what was happening was wrong. Shows you how corrupt the FBI is, huh? Including Christopher Wray. The no agents resigned over the event, and the head of the FBI is still running the FBI like nothing ever happened. In his case, Stone claimed that the DNC servers in 2016 were never examined by CrowdStrike and asked for proof that this was the case because it was pertinent to his case. Stone was indicted for lying to Congress about Russians hacking the DNC and sending the hacked emails to WikiLeaks, which he never did. Tony Shaffer tweets after speaking with my FBI sources and a New York Times reporter with direct knowledge of the handling of the DNC server. It's true there was no direct examination or physically custody of the DNC server. An image, i.e. copy of the server, was examined only. It was also uncovered that the Roger Stone case that CrowdStrike gave the U.S. government 3 draft reports on the so-called hack by Russia, which were full of redactions, and FBI just took their word for it. The FBI never inspected the DNC servers. It was also reported that the DOJ never received the unredacted copies of CrowdStrike's reports. The DNC lawyers provided the CrowdStrike reports to the government. He said the redacted parts weren't relevant to the investigation. The FBI never looked into it. Okay, we're having problems scrolling, so let me reset the page here. So former NSA whistleblower Bill Binney previously reported he has evidence the DNC emails were not hacked, but copied most likely onto a flash drive or something similar. Binney has proof for his assertion, but CrowdStrike and the DNC to date have provided no support that it was Russia who hacked the DNC. Binney also claims that the Mueller gang wouldn't even look at his data because they knew it would show something different than what they presented in their final bogus report, i.e. Mueller's dossier, as referred to by Devin Nunes. Regardless, when Stone pressed the DOJ for support that Russia hacked the DNC and sent the emails to WikiLeaks, the DOJ eventually made these outlandish claims that the investigation of the 12 Russian GRU officers noted above gathered evidence that Russia hacked the DNC systems and sent the emails they hacked to WikiLeaks organization. The DOJ went on to say that they were not going to provide Stone the data from the GRU case. DOJ working in concert with the corrupt FBI, the deep state tentacles. This case was, of course, ran by the deep state dream team, who recently made the news for stepping away from the Stone case in protest. Respectfully submitted, Jesse K. Liu, U.S. Attorney for District of Columbia. I think that's the U.S. Attorney that Trump got rid of. And wonder why. Unfortunately for the Mueller gang, if CrowdStrike is saying that they did not confirm Russia's actions after they hacked the DNC, then the Mueller gang itself must come up with evidence that this occurred. If the Mueller gang is unable to provide this information, then they lied. It looks like Roger Stone has a reason to ask for the government's evidence in the Netschko 12 Russian officers case after all. Roger Stone, a very sharp man. Thank you for listening.